Oh, you're still muted, Jolyn. Jolyn, you're still muted.
There we go. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our session. We thank you so much for attending. This is the session where we are going to talk about a DevEd ABE partnership in math. And we're super excited to share our experiences partnering between the DevEd math classes at our partner colleges and our adult ed programming. So we're three presenters. I am Jolyn Bucky, and I teach math and science for South Suburban Adult Education. We also have Rebecca Strom as a co-presenter, and she's also a math instructor for Mankato area ABE. And our other presenter is Sarah Leonards, and she's a math instructor at Inver Hills Community College. Let's see. I did want to say before we kind of get into introducing ourselves that we really do see this session as a conversation. I mean, we are going to be talking, yes, and sharing our experiences, but we are totally encouraging you to ask questions. So if you have a question, just type it into the chat. While I'm presenting, Rebecca will be monitoring the chat, and she's going to interject your questions so we can get them answered as you're asking them. So just please do that. And then when Rebecca is speaking, I'm going to monitor the chat and we'll get everything answered. So please converse with us. We don't want to just be a couple of talking heads up here. As far as introductions, as I said, I'm Jolyn Bucky from South Suburban Adult Education, which is located in South St. Paul. I teach GED, math and science, and college and career prep in the mornings. And then I co-teach a Dev Ed math class with Sarah Leonards from Inver Hills in the afternoons. This is the very first year of our partnership. So our perspective is a new perspective, like new, just got this started perspective. I'm not going to say too much about Sarah right now. She's actually in sunny California this morning, and you will hear from her through a video, but in that video, she talks a little bit about herself. But I do want Rebecca to introduce herself so you get a little break from my voice.
Welcome, everyone. We're excited to see you. My name is Rebecca Strom, and I teach math in Mankato area's adult education. We've had a partnership with South Central Community College where we've been on their campus since 2007. So we have been doing a variety of different things, but this integrated Right Start, where we are working with the DevEd specifically in the class, we've been doing for about 5 years. So I'm going to kind of share my experiences at the end, so we can talk about, there's been a lot of changes in 5 years, as you can imagine. Flexibility is the name of the game, of course. But yeah, so it's been an interesting, we've learned a lot along the way.
And on our next screen, now that you know a little bit about who we are, where we are, what we're doing, we're really interested in knowing about our audience. And so we have a poll, a very simple poll for you to access and answer just one question to help us learn about who's out there. You can access the poll using the QR code, or we just type the link into the chat. And if you don't mind taking a minute and answering the one question, we're just gonna get to know you just a bit better.
And I will share some of those results as they're coming in. It's kind of fun to see how the different groupings are. So if you haven't answered yet, the link is in the chat box. Looks like we've got about 20 people who've answered, and I think we have about 38 participants, so there might be a handful more of you. So it does look like there's a really interesting grouping.
It does. And we were curious when we were just even planning the session, would we have more ABE folks? Would we have more college folks? Are we going to have admin? Are we going to have instructors? And we've got a really great split between everybody,
Okay.
which is awesome and awesome for us to know.
Okay, it looks like we're done. So
Yeah.
just before I move that away, it looks like a good chunk, a good representation of all groups.
Mhm.
All right.
So in the next 45 minutes or so, we're going to begin. Sarah and I will share our kind of the planning and then the pilot phase of our DevEd partnership. Sarah and I feel a little bit like these women on the left. We're like the boots on the ground. We're feeling confident. We've planned. We've had our initial flight, and we want to tell you all about it because we're so excited. And Rebecca's, she's kind of already up and flying with her partners, and they're going great. But like we know, all flights have some turbulence. You have smooth rides and rough rides at time. And her real expertise is going to be at this point, like sharing the evolution of her partnership. And then this is just our plan. Basically, we're going to start out, I guess we're kind of chronological people. So we're going to talk about the history leading up to the Inver Hills South Suburban Dev Ed Math Partnership. Then we're going to hear from Sarah and her perspectives as the college math instructor. I'll add a little bit to her perspectives as the ABE partner, and then we're going to turn it over to Rebecca to kind of talk about how her 5 years have evolved since the beginning. So this is how I visualize the timeline of our Inver Hills and South Suburban Dev Ed Math Partnership. It has been a long and winding road. The very first meeting took place in 2017, so 5 years ago. And it was very much, I think, brought together by the regional transitions team, who kind of pulled the college together, pulled the adult ed program together and said, let's talk about this. Basically, 3 years went by, more or less, until they met again. Again, the regional transitions team pulling together the college, pulling together adult ed, and really talking about what a partnership would look like. Finally, by the time and I wasn't involved at this point, but at the time they got to about 2021, they were now really digging in, meeting with the college staff. Regional transitions wasn't as involved. And in 2021, they finally said, yes, let's implement a partnership. Let's do it in math. And I think it was mostly because the dean of STEM science, of the STEM programming, was involved in the conversations. The math instructors were really on board. And so fall of 22, they're like, that's it, we're doing it. And so we all came together. Sarah and I started planning in the summer of 2022, and we launched just in the fall of 2022. So really very recently. When I think back on this kind of long and winding road of kind of finally getting to the launch, I think my takeaways that I just want to share is that community, like the state colleges, don't operate like adult education. In adult education, those of you who are in that like arena, our programming changes quickly and on an as needed basis. And it's based on funding, it's based on need. If we have the funds, we're like, let's do it. If something isn't working, we're like, let's switch it up. And the colleges don't operate quite as flexibly as adult education. I have found, are scheduling a year to a year and a half out. Things just don't switch as quickly. And that was just part of like trying to figure the two partners out to come together to plan this. There are a couple of obstacles as well. We had a lot of changes in staff during the planning stages. Adult ed staff changes, college level staffing changes. And every time that happened, the process slowed down a bit before it started to accelerate again. And the other obstacle is funding. Neither partner really had extra money sitting around to pay for the partnership. And so part of the planning process was, how are we going to pay for it? And in the end, the way our program got funded was through a regional transitions grant, which we got last year in order to try out the pilot. And I do have a long and winding road after the picture because we still haven't figured out funding. We're hoping we get a grant again. We're hoping maybe ABE has the money, maybe the college has the money, but that's part of the obstacle that we face, which isn't a surprise to anyone. But just kind of in closing, I think overall this partnership really, really worked because both sides, both partners remained committed and focused on the student benefits. They knew it was a good idea that to come together to increase student retention, to increase the passing rates, to support the students, safety nets, I mean, on and on, just to get the students hopefully able to access higher level math classes. And so because of that focus, even when the obstacles arose, the conversation continued. And so now, with a lot of hard work, here we are. So what we want to do right now is just kind of play Sarah's video. And it's right around 12 minutes long. She talks about collaborative teaching models and I lost that screen, so I can't remember, but you'll hear all about it, and she's just really engaging. So I'll be quiet now.
Well, hello, everyone. I'm Leslie Blicker, one of the conference organizers, and I'm here to have Sarah Leonards, and she'll introduce herself, a faculty member from Inver Hills, continue the conversation on the concurrent session called DevEd ABE Partnership in Math. So welcome, Sarah.
Thank you, Leslie. As Leslie said, I'm Sarah Leonards. I teach at Inver Hills Community College. I am part of the resident faculty there in the math department. I've been there about 12 years now. Prior to that, I taught middle school and high school. I do teach our Math 840. It's our introductory algebra course. I've taught it almost every year that I've been there. And we've had a variety of models to help support students in that course, where we've had embedded tutors and things like that. But for the first time this year, I'm very excited to be partnering with Jolynn Bucky from the South St. Paul District in adult education. And I'm very, very excited to be here, even in this remote fashion, pre-recorded video at the symposium today to talk about my experience with you all.
Well, thanks so much, Sarah. Great experience. So what we're going to do is have a little chat. We've got some questions prepared for Sarah to address, which we think are very interesting for participants, hopefully. And so the first question is, you know, there are many ways that partners can collaborate in teaching, and we call them models of collaborative teaching or levels of integration between ABE and the college. And every partnership does it differently. So I'm going to ask Sarah, which level or which model of collaboration did you decide to use, and how did you arrive at that?
Great question. To answer that, I'm going to share my screen. On the onset of this, I kind of thought, you know, I've never partnered with anyone, and I was very, very excited for the opportunity. Jolynn may have already addressed some of how we came to have this partnership. But one thing we did as a math faculty at Inver Hills was explore the option of partnering with adult education. It was our idea, and we met with faculty, I believe at Anoka Ramsey, who had a great model in place. And we met with them over Zoom, 2020 or 2021, sometime in there. And I don't remember names or any of those details, but what I do remember is how much we absolutely loved the model that they had in place. And we, as faculty at Inver Hills, said, we want that, we need that for our introductory algebra course. So we pursued it on our end, and being in the South Metro in Inver Grove Heights, we decided to contact adult basic education school districts in that area. So that's how we got connected with the South St. Paul district, and that's how I got connected with Jolynn in particular. And so I thought to myself, I don't know how to teach after teaching for so many years by myself. I've never really done this. And I'm going to share my screen here. I just set out to the internet to do a little research about it. And this is an article from Edutopia. And I found these 6 models. And I would say that of the 6, we've done 4 out of the 6 models, and how we've really decided is based on what the particular topic we're teaching that particular class period. I would say the first 2 we do quite a bit, 1 teaching, 1 observing, 1 teaching, 1 assisting. So quite often it is me up there in the front of the room, you know, doing the very traditional lecture type of thing. But what I've never had before is somebody in the back of the room among my students noticing, hey, this guy doesn't seem to be getting it. And Jolynn is just so wonderful at connecting individually with the students and really observing and digging in there and pointing like, hey, you know, you missed this little step right here. So I think like that kind of model, the one teaching, 1 observing, or 1 teaching, 1 assisting, we do that very, very often. And it just, rather than me sending my students out the door like, well, I hope they understood something that I said, Jolynn is out there really ensuring that they're understanding what we're taking notes on. The other 2 models that have come up are the alternative teaching and team teaching. For team teaching, when we have a topic like, so one day early in the course, we reviewed or taught, depending on the student, order of operations. And the next topic was then evaluating algebraic expressions, plugging something in for X and then evaluating that expression. So those 2 topics, of course, go hand in hand. So Jolynn taught, Jolynn was up in the front of the room teaching order of operations, and I was out among the students. And that was new for me. And then we kind of flip-flopped, and I went in the front of the room and did the algebraic expressions part of the course, and she was out in the room. So kind of tag team that particular topic. And then sometimes we do the alternative teaching, where if we know there's, like these 5 students, they were absent, or they kind of bombed this last quiz, and let's pull them out and give them some direct focus. So either I will do that or Jolynn will do that while the other teacher is teaching the rest of the students. So it's just been invaluable to me to have this partnership, because even though, introductory algebra is a somewhat low level math course, I think it makes it a very important and difficult course to teach, to really get our students passing that course and on to the next one.
Thank you. Great. I had a follow-up question. You talked about your roles a bit, I mean, who did what, but did you do any formal definition of your roles? I know sometimes we hear, that the faculty or instructors really retain the they're the content experts, right, over the subject matter material. And when you're truly co-teaching, then, you know, that might cause a little bit of conflict, I'm not sure. But how did you define your roles clearly? And did it change over time? Did you have more comfort over time with the co-teaching, you know, aspects?
That's a great follow-up question. That phrase content expert, it's funny that Jolynn has used that same phrase with me, that she considers me the content expert, although Jolynn has great expertise in math, and she was a science teacher as well. So I think at the onset, she kind of said, this is how I see our partnership, and that she was here to support me. So I guess sort of informally, we formally defined our roles that way. And then we really did let the particular concepts we were going to be teaching for the day really define, okay, since we're doing this, you know, Jolynn would say, oh my gosh, I have this great activity where the students watch a little video that's a kid going up a slide, walking across, and going down a slide. And then we have our students graph that. So Jolynn will just, you know, kind of support our overall concept when she has great ideas, like, oh, I have a really great idea on how to teach such and such. And I never feel like I have to give up my own great ideas that I love doing. It's just an enhancement. So I don't know that we were too formal about our rules, but just kind of took it lesson by lesson. And of course, the first time through when you teach anything new, so maybe there's some bumps in the road, but I think this past fall went really well. And it is nice now that we're doing it a second time. So.
Well, great. Well, we only have about another minute or two here together. I could do another 30 minutes with you for sure. It's very interesting. I'm curious, maybe you mentioned it in your introduction or your first question, but what was campus leadership administration on board with you, your academic, either the dean or your department chair is what I'm going for. And then also over time, have there been any changes? I'm sort of combining two questions in one.
All right.
So if you could address that would be great.
Two-part question.
Yeah.
100% support. This, like I said, it was our entire department that wanted this. Not all of us teach introductory algebra, but we all, know the importance of that course and helping students be successful in that course. A long time ago, we offered an arithmetic and a pre-algebra course, and those had to go away because of financial aid laws. I don't fully understand. So we just have always sought out ways to support our students in this course. So our department chair, our full department, yes, but as you specified, our dean also was fully on board. He was at all our meetings at the infancy of trying to create this partnership. Before we knew if there was funding or anybody even interested in doing it with us, he was at all of those meetings. So so I feel fully supported in this. When our enrollment was low and looking like, oh no, is this on the cancellation list? He said, no, this is new. We're fully supporting this. And also the nature of the course, we have a lot of students who sign up for it at the last minute. And so our dean recognized that and said, do not worry. So. Oh, I forgot about part 2, tweaking things. So yes, since this is our second go around with this course now, I used to say, okay, do all of this homework for chapter 2. It's not going to be due until we're done with the whole chapter. And I don't know if it's the particular bunch of students we have this semester, but we're going to kind of go back to a high school model where we say, I'm assigning section 3-1 and it is due the very next class period. So that's not really a college model of homework, but we feel like they need that structure. Like, we need you to do this homework right now. Even we can't tell you it's due in a week, and because they'll wait till the last minute to do it. So we've tweaked that. And next year we're going to kind of tweak our schedule. Right now, Jolynn comes in an hour after I start, and we just don't like that. We want to start together at the same time. So minor tweaks. And I'm sure there'll be more in the future, but it's going well so far.
Well, I'm so sorry we have a time limit so that all of the presenters can fit into the concurrent session, but thank you so much, Sarah. It's been wonderful to have you. And I think with that, we'll say goodbye and it's a wrap.
All right, my
Thank you.
pleasure. Thank you
Yep.
so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Oops, I almost missed that. Well, I'm sure you can all see why I am so excited about our the partnership that Sarah and I have had the opportunity to pilot this year, because she's just delightful. So it's just part of what really helps everything work. I don't have a ton to add to what she's already said, but I just thought maybe it might be important just to kind of hear my voice in the partnership, in the new partnership as well. And I think really from my adult ed perspective on it, what I really see as the true value as far as student benefits is the extra support that they're getting. They get so much more like one-on-one time. And we've really been able to do something that Sarah's never been able to do before. And that's just really hone in on their soft skills. The organization, the deadlines of things, we're really working hard on that aspect. And I don't think that ever happened before. Little things too, like, students who don't have a spiral notebook, I just bring them one. A lot of students don't have calculators. I bring mine from my morning classes. Just that noticing time and the communicating between instructors to kind of address student issues before they become so big we've lost them. So we've just done, I think, a great job of communicating with ourselves and communicating with the students and noticing what we need to do to help them be successful. So that's for sure a student benefit. And we've learned a lot of lessons along the way. Like we think we need a new schedule. It's kind of wonky what we have right now, with me coming in late and Sarah leaving early. But what we've really taken away is that we can be flexible, and we need to be flexible based on the needs of the students. And what Sarah sort of alluded to is our last group was completely different than this group. And we've had to completely kind of switch up our teaching model, but communicating with ourselves and noticing what's happening with the students, we've been able to. We've tried to incorporate some math advising as well. Not that I feel like I'm an expert on the math courses at Inver Hills, but I start the conversation and direct them to Sarah to finish the conversation. And we had a lot of good luck with that as well. And I just think the blend of our teaching styles is really complementary, and the way to blend them in a way that makes sense and doesn't feel dysfunctional to the students has also been something we've kind of gotten better at as time goes on. And the only other thing I just wanted to mention is that we did make an attempt at measuring the outcomes of our first semester. So we have been able to calculate the pass rate, and out of the students we had, and we had a small class, we had 7, which was probably pretty good for our first year. All but one passed, and the only reason we lost one, she dropped out, and we were never able to get out of her what had happened. And so we lost one, we lost 2 for retention reason. We didn't retain them. 1, we don't know why. 1 was a health issue. And again, we've been in contact with her still to say, hey, maybe if you can get some of that work in, we can still get you a passing grade. So because there's 2 of us, we have more time to communicate, and even with the students. If you're from the ABE world, we're all about contact hours and all about level gains. Contact hours were awesome, and every single student but 1 made a level gain. Again, I thought that was like just super awesome. And the final thing we did is we surveyed them at the end, and oh, you'll have to tell me what that question is, Rebecca, in a minute. And we surveyed the outcomes of our students with us, we asked them a survey. And I'm just going to read some of their comments because they've just made me feel really good and like we were doing the right thing. One student said, I always had help when I needed it. It was nice always being able to have someone answer your questions, more personal instruction. Great. Both of my teachers made my life so easy, didn't have me stressing about math. Whew, that's nice to hear. Someone else told us having the time in class to work on homework while having a teacher check in and make sure you are doing it right made me feel more successful. Working on homework in class was beneficial. And the very last one I'll read, he said, I never left class not knowing what I was doing. You make sure we get everything. And it was really nice to have that assistance. So that was just really great comments. I mean, I just wanted to share a few, but we felt like it all went okay. Rebecca's turn.
Well, I'll just add on to a few of her experiences and then we can grab some questions at the end. We have been working, like I said, our program started in 2018, and every year has felt like a pilot year. We have had, as staff turns over, we've had great support from the college throughout, but we are actually in those 5 years working with our third dean. And so each dean has really been supportive and we've advanced in different areas each time. So it's been great that even though we have turnover, we've always had really awesome support from the college. The collaboration with college instructors has been great. I've actually now taught with 4 different college instructors as every semester changes and the workload changes, and each professor sometimes isn't always teaching the same as they did last semester. So for me as an ABE instructor, that has been great to get to work with so many different ones, see different teaching styles, see different learning styles, working with the same students sometimes in the introductory algebra to intermediate algebra. At South Central, it's Math 75, 85. And so that's been really helpful as well. I've worked with a variety of their dev ed courses. We've had the 075, the 085, then they have the block class of the two. And so we've really kind of morphed along the way, and flexibility has been the key. When we started in 2018, I would be in the classroom for the Math 75, the introductory algebra, and then students would stay for an additional hour afterwards where we would back up, dig into hands-on learning. We would pull out different manipulatives. While he was teaching, I was kind of like monitoring the students, looking for where the holes were. I think the co-rec model is an awesome model of that just-in-time teaching, but I think this partnership here is a great model of, I see that you have this hole that you're really struggling with vocabulary, and every time he says factor, you seem to kind of get frustrated. So we would back up and hit those things that we kind of noticed were the holes that were behind the scenes. When we moved to the online model for COVID, that was a huge challenge, and math went online. When it came back, a lot of the homework is still online, but I've been able to collaborate with some of the professors. We're bringing back some of that homework, as was discussed in her video as well, that students need that hands-on writing to really get the deeper understanding. And so that part has been really interesting, that collaboration where I've been able to meet with the professors, give some feedback about the students' learning. Some of that collaboration with the extra work with the student does happen in the classroom, where I can sit down with the student while they're practicing a few skills. We also have, for the first time this year, created an ABE course on the college campus. That because it's ABE, we don't have to start on each semester. Students can join throughout the semester. And so sometimes we've gotten those same students to join my other class for that extra support as well. So that there is opportunities to come outside of the class time to meet. So that's been really good. Here, our focus, of course, is student retention. We always have students that just kind of disappear, and it's really hard to keep track of and find out what happened to them. And so I'm doing another session after this one talking about, we created this position for a navigator. It was an ABE SEC collaborative position for someone who helps those students navigate. And so that's something that's really helped with our retention as well. I do want to add on to what Jolynn said about those soft skills. So many of these college students have said, that they are struggling getting into D2L. Math is often an online course now, and they're struggling just getting in. I helped a student who was a previous student, saw me in the hallway. It was week 4 and he had not logged into his online account yet to get the math started. So he was, incredibly behind. So working with those skills, students for whatever reason never want to check their college email because they have a personal email. Getting them into their college email. I helped a student get in and he had 75 unread messages from different professors. So those soft skills are really important, that we're also getting them college ready, work readiness skills as we work with the math as well. I'm trying to think if there's anything that Jolynn didn't already communicate with, but like treating it like a pilot year every year is that great feeling of, well, what worked we can keep working with, but we're always going to be flexible and consider different things. One of the things I wanted to mention was collaborating with college instructors. The course when I'm in the block course, we can't have students stay later for additional help because the class is already 2 hours long. So the college instructor would instruct for a while, and then I would kind of grab students at the end and try to back up and do the extra digging in stuff. Students often would think the college professor's gone, I'm leaving. And so they wouldn't always stick around till the end, but I collaborated and we created exit tickets so that was part of their grade, was to turn in these exit tickets. So that part of collaborating and getting that support from the college professor has been really helpful. So it is 10:08 and I know the next session starts at 10:25. There's only 5 minutes between. So we want to make sure everyone gets that break, but I'm going to go to the chat box and look at some of the questions in there. The first one was, can you speak to the frequency of the two of you meeting and coordinating your work before the session occurs and during the semester? So for myself, it's because I've done it so many times, we've just kind of rolled with it. But in the beginning, there were several meetings, but I'll let Jolynn talk about that.
Yeah, Sarah and I met in the summer a couple of times to talk about, like what's our teaching style? What's our teaching philosophy? And it was super useful just to kind of have those conversations before we even dug into planning the class, because we found that in particular, we were both 100% write your homework on a piece of paper so we can see the steps, so we can see the process that has happened. So we kind of spent some time just kind of figuring each other out. And then we had another meeting where we kind of dug into like, let's start figuring out how we're going to teach this. And I have to say, we stayed very flexible with that because we were like, we think this will work. And then, maybe we were tweaking it in the class. Last semester, we were able to meet after the class for like a half an hour before either one of us had to rush off. So we would always kind of like, connect, discuss what went well, what didn't right after the class. This semester, we don't have that. Sarah teaches a class like 1 second after the other class ends. And so this semester, we text, we call each other on the phone, it's that's what you do, right? You just find ways to plan that aren't necessarily always in person. So, but it's easier the second time around. So I hope that answers your question. I think that was Russ's.
And in the love of technology, Zoom just crashed on me, which means I lost my chat box, which means I can't see them anymore.
Well, I have another one. I have one.
I'll let you go.
This is from Larry. He asked us, is the extra help always during a class meeting, or does the ABE also meet with students outside of class time?
Depending on the course structure. So pre-COVID, we were able to build in class plus lab. When it was a 1-hour class, it was built in. They did not have to pay for that extra lab, but we considered it part of the class. And so then that was an extension of the class. Now that we're dealing with more the changes in DevEd, they want to, really minimize DevEd courses. It's more of a block. It's rare to have that 1 hour. And then students did have scheduling conflicts, which was also a challenge. So we are meeting during class, at the end of class, but I have office hours that they have created for me so that students can meet with me outside.
And my answer is very similar. The way our class is structured, we have a 2.5-hour class that meets Monday and Wednesday. I come in an hour late, but I stay half an hour after Sarah leaves. And so the extra ABE help in this situation right now is happening in that last half hour of class. Although I also have office hours. And so I do meet students on occasion when they've set it up with me to work like a half an hour, 45 minutes, sometimes after class, but sometimes on a different afternoon, I'll run over there and meet up with them. And we're hoping next year to switch up our schedule a little bit so that we have 3 days of math, like still 5 hours of math, but over 3 days. And one of the days would be a 1-hour ABE only lab. So we'll see if we can get that to work. So I hope that answered your question. Here's another one for us, Rebecca. It says here, this is from I think it's Marion. Here in Rochester, students are really intimidated about all the computer skills necessary to do anything at the college. They come back to us for help because they say the helpers at the college are too busy. It's pretty complex stuff. This may be part of the problem with email.
Yeah, I found that too, that taking that time in the very first week of school to get everyone in their email, to get everyone in their online platforms, to help them find, I know everyone uses different platforms. We use D2L, which to me can be difficult to work with occasionally. So that has been a nice part that we have deliberately built into the first week of the DevEd class.
Yep, and I'll say that with Sarah too. She's really good about getting the students into the D2L and finding their online textbook and helping them navigate their emails. It's something that she just does automatically. But yeah, I agree. It could be it's a part of the problem in the adult education world too. No one checks their emails. Larry had another follow-up question. How might the ABE model differ for a course that has a co-requisite? Would the ABE instructor want to focus on the co-req component or come to both classes?
So I will speak to that just from the perspective of someone who's been in the classroom with 4 completely different professors teaching DevEd. And I think it is a challenge to learn the different professors' teaching styles. So I think it can be done. I think to do it properly, the ABE teacher would need to be in the classroom during instruction so that they knew how to support. Because different instructors are asking different things of their students. And if you're not in the instruction part of it, then you're not really different than sending people to the tutoring center. And so I think a co-req is instruction, not help. And so I think if you've worked closely with a professor, it could work. I think there would be a challenge to just drop in and try to support a class that you weren't actively participating in. That's my personal thought.
And I guess from my limited experience, I completely agree. If I wasn't in the classroom seeing exactly what the students were learning and how they were learning it, I would not be as good at supporting them. So I agree. It would be much better to have the ABE teacher in with that instructor, even at a co-req. Okay, I think those were. Anyone else have questions for us? We're here for you.
And if there are no more questions, we're happy to close just a couple minutes early because we know there, if you need that water break before the next class or next session, that would be great. So anything else? I dropped our contact information in the chat box. Feel free to reach out to us, email us. We do check our emails, so it's good.
And just I think before we all start saying unless another question comes in, thank you so much for attending. It's the first time I've ever done this, and it's been such an awesome experience. And yeah, thanks for coming, and please reach out if you have any questions. Oh, we got one. Could you speak more as to the soft skills support? Oh, you want to start, Rebecca?
I see it two-sided. Like I said, the very first week, and I know students can still drop and add that first week, so I hate to do too much before the rest of the students add. So by the end of the first week, making sure that they are in the online platform, that they can find all of their classes, that they have opened their school email. And with math, there's often an online math program, has been the trend. Having them in those is really helpful. I also see it's really helpful to walk people to the computer lab where they can also get tech help on their own. And then our professor also walks them to the math center so they know where to go for help. So like getting that in there. So they're not just relying on us, but we are super there to help them. We also make a big point to talk about things like attendance and coming on time and tardiness, those skills that aren't always addressed as much. So we don't want them to depend on us. We want to get them started on how to access resources as needed.
Yep. And I guess my other thought is, if you're going to be absent, communicating that, your absence and following up. These are soft skills, following up with what did I miss? What do I need to do to catch up? Asking those questions. And even many of these students, I suspect, were kind of quiet a lot of times in probably their high school classes. And just like encouraging them to reach out with questions, like we're a safe space here. It's okay to ask us questions. If you knew it all, you wouldn't be here. Just giving them some of that confidence in communicating, asking questions if they need it, and just kind of all around building self-confidence.
All right, thank you so very much. I hope you enjoy all your sessions today and have a wonderful day.
Yep, thank you very much.